everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sober At.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan, this is Jess, and we are sober as fuck. Before we get to a guest today, Jess has a few things she wants to go over.
So, trigger warning, before it gets fun, it's got to be serious. So we talk about substance abuse, addiction, mental health, self-harm, eating disorders, grief, loss, anything that you can think of that's triggering. So, number one thing is we want you to prioritize your own mental health. So if you hear anything or you start experiencing any sort of like negative feelings, by all means, please pause. You can come back later. Or if the podcast overall is just too much, that's fine as well. But assuming that you stick around and listen, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share. Sharing is caring. We like to keep our content inclusive and free and accessible. And the only way that we are able to do that is for you all to share for us. So
yes, rate and review.
No pressure.
No pressure. Just fucking rate and review.
We'll have to cancel this podcast if you don't share it. Okay.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Yes.
Like, rate, share, and review. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Kind of. So, midday check-in. It's right around noon. How are you feeling today, Ryan, before we bring on our special guest?
I'm feeling good.
You're feeling good?
I am. I'm feeling great.
Are you in the moment, in the now?
I am in the now.
I love it. I love that.
Crushing shit.
Are you extremely in the now?
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just midday check-in. How are you guys doing out there? Good? Great. So who we have today?
Today we have someone that I've been following on Instagram for a while. She's been sober for coming up on 5 years, and she created a sober community, sober website called Drytality, which is really cool. I love the blogs, and I'm interested to talk to her about it. So let's bring her on. Her name is Sarah Olsen.
Hey.
Hello. Hi.
Did you love our little banter?
Dude, you guys could do a whole show before the show, which I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that.
He's like, I forgot she can hear us even though she's in the living room.
It was the best. I was just dying.
That's how we talk to each other, like, normally.
Mm-hmm.
I
love that.
The listeners can't hear it because it was just like while we were prepping, but it was a lot of fun.
It was good. It was comical. I would have paid money to see it.
There you go. Now we're on to something.
Right.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on.
So happy to be here.
As I was just telling everybody, you created this, sober community, the website, Drytality.
Mm-hmm.
If you could, elaborate on that a little bit, tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. Well, after I decided to get sober, which I'm sure we'll dive into that story too, I was lucky enough to form this friendship with these women due to a community. And I realized this power that connection had to change my relationship with alcohol, which was my goal. And it wasn't even necessarily be sober at that time, but I just recognized that connecting with these other people who felt the same way that I did was such a big deal. And so I decided to kind of bring in my experience with health and wellness and fitness, and as well as my crazy still party just without alcohol side of things, and build a community for people who identify as women to come in and have a place where they can help change their relationship with alcohol. And a lot of folks listening might be familiar with the Put It Down lifestyle community, which is how we began. And we really were focused on changing folks' relationship with alcohol, which was awesome. For me, however, I realized that my life was still centered around booze. And that actually wasn't healthy for me. It was hard. Like you guys give for your disclaimers and your warnings. It was like, oh, wow. Like I'm just focusing on the darkness all the time. And it was hard to then kind of create a new type of life when I'm still thinking about the past all the time. And so we ended up rebranding based on this vision where I wanted to have a focus around learning how to have fun without alcohol. So the connection piece is certainly still there, but it's just, how can we have these new experiences, new challenges, new connections, and alcohol just happens not to be there. So Drytality is all about setting that precedent. We have a community of women. It's a membership community, or you can even do one-offs where certain times during the year, like Dry January and Dry July and Sober October and Mind Over May, we made that up because we felt like there needed to be another one in there.
Right. I love that. I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
You can come in and do a alcohol-free challenge. So we do focus on all the neuroscience behind alcohol. We give you health and wellness daily checklists where you kind of challenge yourself. You earn points, and at the end you can win a big prize for meeting the goals that you set. And then between the vibes, we call them. So it's on those off months, we have different programming that is not related to booze at all, but it's related to growth and personal development and being silly. So for example, in the month of April, we have a decluttering and organization expert come in. In the month of November, we're going to do a recipe exchange. In the month of March, we're doing mascot brackets where you cannot, I don't care how much knowledge you have about college basketball teams, you cannot apply it. You must only look at the mascots and determine, can a bird beat a kangaroo? Like, well, what's going to happen?
That's awesome.
So it's a virtual community, but it's about, having fun. We have mocktail books. We have workout books. We have an adventure guide where you can go in and pick your adventure. So it's just about expanding, and it's been really fun. And we've developed such a great community, and we're continuing to add members. And you mentioned the blog, Ryan, and that's something that we're passionate about writing. And we have a couple regular writers who contribute and just share their story, whether it's about booze or it's about growth or it's about like, I need to figure out how to sleep. I am going to tell you my story about a pillow.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. So we love it.
I love that. I love that too. I love how it's like open to anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how you have like the in-between months too, because that's something else, it's obviously very focused on like being sober and mental health, but you're absolutely right that you get to a point in that journey where you get so stuck in the don'ts, like don't do this, make sure you show up to this, that you have to remember that you're allowed to live a life in between all of that too. Like your whole existence does not have to be just don't drink, don't gamble, do your meetings. Like that's important, but like you have a whole life outside of that too. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I struggled too with, we probably really speak to, we're either complementary in nature to someone who's maybe attending AA, but for the folks who don't identify or don't feel comfortable identifying as an alcoholic or saying they're in recovery or realizing they have a problem, it felt like I needed to pivot so the space was more comfortable for everyone on their journey. And it wasn't such a focus of, I'm on my day one, I'm on my day, 1031. And it felt like it could be a place for everyone to really connect, which has been great. It has been a great transition.
Yeah,
we had our first little retreat in November, which was
cool.
Awesome.
Where'd you guys go?
We went to Kent, Connecticut. So it's right in my backyard, but it's absolutely beautiful. Especially in the fall, we stayed at a incredibly haunted, which was I did not know this, but it was I was terrified. I was the only one who was terrified, but I was terrified. And then I felt like I had to hide it from everyone because I was like, they're all going to think I'm the biggest wuss, but I am so scared. Slept with the lights on.
You're like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm good. Oh my gosh.
There's like an urn in the bathroom. I'm like, I'm not opening that urn. I did when we left, and there was sea salts in it, which I think if I would have opened it, it was loose salts, which I probably wouldn't have used anyway. But if I would have opened that urn that first night, I would have been like, I don't know what that is.
You would have been like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah, I love kind of like the tagline. I mean, number one, it's all inclusive, which is great. I love that. But it's you have this happy life just being in sobriety. What you thought, I guess, alcohol promised, sobriety is actually giving you, which is what I really love. Kind of like your tagline, I guess, or whatever for the site and how you rebrand it. I really love that. I think that's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. The blogs, like you said, are great. The sleep one was what got, I mean, I'm a big guy when it comes to sleep. I'm a big meditation guy, especially, late at night. That really got me through my first, kind of 60, 90 days
That's awesome.
of sobriety was trying to learn how to sleep again. Because, for me, I always lied to myself that I needed alcohol to sleep every night. That was my big thing. And relearning, I mean, it's kind of like being a toddler, learning how to sleep again.
100%.
Learning how to, rewire, I guess, my mind on what 8 hours actually looks like, instead of 3-4 hours and getting up to sleep was huge. Was that a big part for you as
huge.
well?
And I think too, on a lot of my times before my last time where I was trying to moderate, I was like, why don't I feel amazing right away? Why isn't my sleep not perfect right away? I should be just waking up feeling completely energized. And how am I supposed to know I was sedating myself, not actually getting sleep? Like I'm not a sleep expert. I'd be doing completely different things if I was that type of scientist. And so that was a really big struggle. But when I read Matthew Walker's book and listened to his TED Talk and learned about like a lot of those fundamentals of sleep, and that, I was experiencing fragmented sleep, and then just your body trying to recover even when I stopped drinking, and that I needed to give it some time, that helped me kind of put the pieces together where, okay, I'm going to get a better sleep than I have been. And then whatever's happening in my early days, I just need to give it a second. I need to try to find whatever patience might exist somewhere in the deep, dark depths of my body. I need to find it and be patient.
Yeah. I mean, well, and we pacify with alcohol because it's instant gratification. I mean, of course you build a tolerance, but from the first sip, you feel it in your bones, right? Like your body processes like, oh, you just put poison inside of me, right? So when you give that up and you're doing it because you're telling yourself like, I'm going to feel so much better. I'm going to be healthy, which all of those things are true. You've also are working with a brain that is programmed to expect an instant, maybe not a full result, but some sort of instant relief. And I like all things, there's a honeymoon phase. Like I noticed this with you too, where at first not that it's not difficult and everybody's is different, but this was how it was with Ryan. Like at first he's like, I feel great. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not drinking. I'm so proud. And you're kind of on cloud 9 for taking those steps. And then you go through a lull where you're like, I woke up a lot last night and I really don't know why. Like I've been sleeping so good, or I've been on these meetings and for whatever reason, like I'm on them, but I'm not getting out of them what I was before. Like it's not giving me that feeling. And the hardest part is just pushing through that and recognizing, well, it's not new anymore. It's familiar. And our, that dopamine or serotonin is not rushing anymore because it's a familiar feeling. And not associating that sort of boredom or lull with bad, because we also like, the kids will come and be like, I'm bored, and just look at you, like same thing. And it's like, okay, like I'm not a party clown, right? Like my job, but we have to do that with ourselves too. We shouldn't have to always feel this intense sense of happiness and fun. Like boredom is healthy, and that lull pushes you to be creative and to search for new things.
Right. I love the example, the honeymoon period too, because, like in a relationship, you're there, you're excited, everything's happening. And then there's this point where there's a shift because you're trying to figure out now, how do I sustain? It's that, how do I keep this going? And you kind of have that shift. And the same thing, my hardest year, alcohol-free, was my second year when I went into that lull. And it was probably the spring or summer of that, whatever that second year is, math, 2022, 2021. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm bored out of my mind. Oh my gosh. Like I remember Memorial Day weekend, I was like, everyone's out having drinks. I'm having a burger. I just want to cry. I'm pacing. There's nothing to do. And I had this epiphany that evening where I said, oh dude, this is a choice. This is a total choice of me feeling this way. And that didn't necessarily mean I need to go out and do something every time. It was just it was time for me to relax. It was time for me to settle down or go book tickets to a concert, which is what I ended up doing actually. So it becomes it's life isn't supposed to be fill it with booze where I'm feeling like shit all the time and making dumb mistakes and saying stupid things. This lull is here for my healing, for my quiet, for my reflection. And it was a big eye-opening moment.
Yeah,
it was one of the best concerts I ever went to.
Yeah, I was just, it sounds like we're very familiar in that. I mean, we call it the pink cloud, right?
Yeah.
You're on this high, and it's funny because, when I hear people talk all the time in meetings, especially the new people, they get in that pink cloud. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month. I swear I was in it for my whole first year, just because I was, I abused myself for 30 years. And then all of a sudden I had this wake up call to where, God, life can be so much better. And I can't believe I did this. My first year, I'm like, wow, why didn't I do this 30 years ago? Why didn't this 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
Right.
This is new. This is amazing. I'm teaching myself all this new shit that I could have been doing a long time ago. And then as soon as I hit my year, I was like, okay, now what?
Now what?
So I finally reached this goal. Now what the fuck am I going to do?
Now what?
And now this past year has been just like that. There's, I have those moments where I'm like, well, fuck, I'm missing out on, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're right. It's a choice. And I'm like, no, everything's fine.
Right.
You're just getting used to this. You're relearning how to live. Which has been great. It's been a blessing to me because I've really this past year have learned what I enjoy, what I really like, who I want to spend time with, who I want to have fun with. And I'm realizing that, as you would like to say, I feel like I'm the life of the party now. Anytime I do go out with anybody, I'm
and
really
we don't
enjoying
give a shit if
life.
We're not.
That's right.
Or they don't think we are.
That's right.
I will say, just side comment, you've always thought your life of the party.
Oh yeah, but now I know.
Like that's a component that has stuck, like that was the other thing is you get sober and you wonder how much of your personality and how much of what you do and what you think and feel is you and the booze.
Yeah.
Every room you walk into, you're like, it just got better.
That's right.
That's it. I always said to my husband, I was like, now that when I drink and we'd have the typical arguments, that escalated that didn't need to.
Yeah.
And I was like, I always knew I was right. And now I know I'm right.
I know I'm right.
He's like, I'm going to pour you a shot right now, you jerk.
See, and now I have that same reaction, but on the other end of it, because I'll look at him and go, you can't claim that you don't remember.
No.
That's true.
And I have two other witnesses.
It's a blessing and a curse.
So if you listen to all of our podcast episodes, especially the ones just the two of us and both seasons, I really think laundry is like a common denominator in all of our issues is what I will say. And we've realized this because it's always like laundry has, this is a metaphor and it's also literal. So like, I've lost clothes, right? And I don't know where they are. And he gets clothes all mixed up. He puts my clothes in with our daughter's clothes and vice versa. And then sometimes I don't know where they are, right? Maybe they're in the dog's crate. I don't know. And he likes to do the laundry, which if you go back and listen to the episode, there's a whole thing about him doing the laundry. We're not even going to go there. And last night I was making dinner and my daughter came downstairs. And she goes, "You're being demoted, Dad." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You're being demoted. You're not allowed to do laundry anymore." And I'm just sitting there like, oh, I'm so glad it's not me who is having to point this out. Yeah. And he goes, What is the problem? What is yours and your mother's problem with the laundry? She's like, "I can't find any of my clothes. You literally put my clothes in with Mom's and her clothes in with mine. And like, so we had littles at the house. She's like, you put a 3-year-old socks like in my drawer. Like, what are you thinking?" And he goes, "I do not misplace the laundry." And she's like, "You do. I'm not arguing about it." It was almost like an out-of-body experience. I felt like I was like hovering over my own body, but my body was my daughter's. And y'all were having the exact same argument and discussion that we have. I was like, I've never been more proud to call her my daughter. And I just looked at him and I said, I have witnesses now.
Yes.
Great.
And he
I've
said,
never related more to
he goes, I'll just do my own laundry from now on. I just won't touch anybody else's laundry.
Right. I just separate mine.
Laundry. It's our thing.
It's the worst. Also, I don't want to do it. So I also have that struggle where I'm like, you're doing it wrong.
But I'm not going to do it.
Doing it.
Right. Yes. We've talked about that too. I'm okay with the laundry sitting in the dryer for a little while. He just looks at it and he's like, so what's the deal with the laundry? And he's like, okay, so what's happening with the laundry? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's fine. I'm going to make dinner and come back to it. And he's like, so tell me about the laundry one more time. What's going on there? And he just can't stand it.
It's bad. He was folding laundry the other day and I said, he's like, are these your jeans or Riley's? He asked me. So I was like, those are mine. They look like they came out of the dryer too. And I'm like, Sarah, sound like your mom. I just say that. Thank you. Those are mine.
Ours is, how many laundry, that we need to poll, right? Okay, Sarah, I'm going to ask you a question and then we'll move on to yours. How many dryer sheets is appropriate for a load?
He doesn't put any dryers. I'm saying 1. And please don't forget to remove the lint from there. Because sometimes I see that and it's
it's a stacked up.
So I use multiple laundry or dryer sheets.
Multiple. Use a handful.
I do not. See, here we go.
It depends on the load too. I might be sizing you, Jess.
We literally like a few years ago bought a washer and dryer that's very big. And I was like, I can do so many clothes. And he's like, why are the loads so big? We can't use them for its intended purpose. So yeah, sometimes I use 2 or 3 because they get staticky, especially in the winter months. And he's like, how many laundry sheets are you supposed to use? Gosh, we probably spend more money on laundry sheets in a month than anything else.
Terrible.
So that's the
he
other
went through a phase where he wanted to make his own. So
really? That would be cool. I need to look into that.
Oh God.
Not a good idea.
We have a teaspoon and a little pump. He's like, you only need to pump this much in and put this in. Like, I can't even tell you. It became a science. And he's like, nope, don't need that much. Do you know how much we spend on detergent?
So every time you guys got in a fight, did you just take it and look at him and you just like poured and poured and poured and poured? That's what I would do. Yeah. That's what I would do.
Pretty close.
Oh my gosh.
I see your teaspoon and I raise you a tablespoon.
That's right.
Sorry.
Probably with you would be a whole measuring cup.
He used to hate that I would DoorDash, and so every time he made me mad, I would DoorDash.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah, we get in trouble for that.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Especially when you get budget season kick.
Right.
Go there.
Right. Don't tell me I can't DoorDash coffee.
All right. Well, moving on from the husband bashing.
That was fun.
So let's go back about 5 years.
Yeah.
And kind of give me, I guess, what changed your relationship with alcohol and started your sobriety.
Let's do this one. All right.
Yeah.
We're ready.
It's going to be good. Let's get ready for this.
The real raw shit.
Right. So it probably was 10 years ago where I was like, ooh, I'm behaving like an idiot every now and then. And I grew up my dad is a James Beard award-winning chef. My mother is just one of the best cooks I know. And we grew up with wine being a huge part of the culture of our family. And, obviously I don't blame them, but because they have control over it, I did not. And I think I grew up really knowing, this is all, retroactive, not thinking that life would be possible without wine at all. Like, how could I possibly be sophisticated without alcohol? That's ridiculous. And so I, started out kind of as a typical college binge drinker that we all hear about. And even after I was married and divorced, I think I really only drank on the weekends. I didn't have my daughter, but I drank. Like, I was out till like 4 or 5 in the morning. I live outside of New York City. We were going to the clubs. I was like, when I look back on it, that's an outer body experience for me, because that just wasn't who I was. A lot of self-worth issues going on there, where that's another story for another podcast. But so when Riley and I, when she started getting older, something happened where I was now all of a sudden went from weekend warrior to I was having a glass of wine every single day. And when I came home from work like that, and then it became a bottle, then it became 2 bottles. And then Lord, the pandemic, it became 3 bottles. And I really, never could identify with having a problem. I just was like, I just got to get it under control. And it was something that I kept very, very close to me. And I did not let anyone know I was feeling this way, because how come everyone else can do it? How come, my mom and dad can have wine and they're fine. I was going to work. Everyone was fed. I had a great job. I was doing all the things I was supposed to do. So all else equal, I didn't really have a problem. I just kind of felt like shit and made some really dumb comments and perhaps decisions the night before. And, so I did a lot of dry Januaries, failed miserably at that, but it was always, I knew I was going to fail because my birthday is at the end of January. So I'm obviously only going to go to my birthday and then I'm going to party. And then we always had a big work meeting or something in January. So obviously I can't not drink during that, because that would be abnormal to not drink during a work event. And so I met my husband in 2019, and we met in September. We were engaged in November. We moved in December. We were married August 8th, 2020. And I didn't realize I was leading the drinking. So when the pandemic was around, I was leading the charge, and man, was it fun. It was like hurricane party every single day. So at our wedding, I decided that we had a 10 a.m. wedding outside. So everything was spaced out. I decided to have Riley, my daughter, go off with a friend after the ceremony, like 2 p.m. I said, she hates being around drinking. And she was starting to voice her opinion, by the way. She was starting to say, Mom, I don't like when you drink. Mom, you act different. And then it was starting to get more and more and more. And I have a side story with that too. And so I thought I was being responsible by saying, I want you to go to your friend's house at 2. So you're not around all the drinking and partying. I knew we were going to get shit-faced. I knew that was going to happen. And that's what I did at that moment. Now, her biological father, was also going through some addiction issues with alcohol and likely drugs. And he was in a point of recovery right now, which is really, really great. And but that was something that stuck with her. There have been some incidents that she was traumatized from. And so seeing me drink, even though in my head it looked controlled to her, like it looked like I had it under control, that she didn't feel safe. So the next day after our wedding, we were all laying on the couch. Riley came home from her friend's house. She was like, let's go do something. Let's go to lunch. No, I can't leave this couch. Like, I feel like shit. By the way, I don't remember the second half of the wedding. The pictures were atrocious. I am married to the love of my life. I mean, he is my best friend. I don't need any other friends. He is the best. And I have not one great picture of us. And that makes me so sad, because this is my 3rd marriage. 3rd time's a charm. I should be like documenting this. Like, this one's gonna stick. And I had none of that. And so I was really sad about that. I was like, God, I just had that open look, that glazed look in every picture, and I was sad. And so at the end of the month, I remember I hid a bottle of wine in the trash can. I caught myself hiding it, like dipping it down, like in the middle of the day. And I had that realization, like, oh shit, I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that thing that people who say they're alcoholics do. Like, that's not good. Let me go figure out some help. And so I was surfing the internet at 2 a.m, very likely still drunk. And I found a community, and I joined and signed up, and I had 1 bottle of wine left, and I drank it on the 27th, I guess it was, and finished it. And I said to Riley, and I said to my husband, I said, I'm going to try a challenge to stop drinking for 30 days. I need your help, because I'm really bad at sticking with it. And it was a September. So I was like, I'm going to finish this bottle of wine. I'm just going to start now. And I was really scared to tell Riley, because she's the one I really didn't want to disappoint. And she was, 11, she's 16 now. So 11 years old then. And, they go, okay, we got you, whatever you need. And so probably 15 days into that month, and I wasn't looking to quit. I was looking to moderate. I was looking to become a normal drinker. I needed the tools to be able to live like everyone else lived. And I 15 days in, I was like, I can never drink and have the life that I want. Like it's they're not in the same lane, like at all. I want, you know, like a lot of people, I thrived in nutrition, I thrived in health until I started drinking. And then it was all down the toilet. And then all the things that came with focus and self-worth and anxiety were starting to shoot up. And I just was like, I can't continue it. And so I just kept going, and I dove into things that distracted me. I feel like I was very blessed in a sense that because my husband wasn't the leader of the drinking, and he could take it or leave it, he left it. And that was if he kept drinking, I don't really know where I'd be. If things weren't shut down, I also don't know where I'd be. I think there was a recipe for me to be successful in that time. And that was the right time for me to take on. Oh, I'm getting emotional about it. And a lot of people say, well, Sarah, you have to take credit. You know, you did all that. Of course. Yes, I do. Without his like unwavering support, that would have been really, really hard for me to do in the way that I did it, which felt filled with love and filled with like just the right people around me. And if I had the pressures of going out and being social and my friends, I don't know if I could have done it. And that's just honest human talk there. And I'm a pretty confident person, and I like to say I don't succumb to peer pressure, but let's be real. And I just kept going. I did like 75 hard to distract me, which my whole family supported me to just as like a physical challenge, or if you do something 5 times a day, every day. And it's time consuming. It required me to be really, really. And I did the whole year long program. It's not 75 hard for a whole year. It's different parts of the year. And everyone was rallied behind me to make sure I completed this. And I kept finding things to build my confidence during that year. It created this pink cloud. I was excited. I was pumped. I was like, man, I can do this. And then when I decided to create a community for women, because I just felt like I can help people feel like life wasn't over, you know, with just the personality I have and the things I like to do, that helped keep me accountable. Cause I was like, well, I can't fuck up now. Cause now I'm like doing this whole public accountability thing. like now I'm charging people. I gotta keep going. And so it's just been a really beautiful journey. And I'll never forget the first year I told this girl, I was like, you know what it's like? Because not everyone knew my story. I was like, it's like I just lost my virginity to this really hot guy, and I know it, but I haven't told anyone. And I'm like walking around going, I'm not a virgin anymore. That's what I felt. And then this girl was like, or it's like you're pregnant and you can't tell anyone else and you're really excited. And I was like, that too, but I like my examples more fun.
I like the other one better.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kept going. And I still, to this day, I don't say, you know, it's forever. And that's just a mental thing. I think about, and I heard you guys when you were talking, when you were doing your check-ins, where it's like, how are you today? How are you right now? And I try to live in this moment, and I don't future trip about when Riley graduates and she wants to go to Paris. This is what I think about before this journey. I go, how am I not going to drink in Paris? Mm-hmm. Like something's going to happen 10 years from now. I'm worried about. And that's, you know, making my choices for me right then and there. And that was rough. But, you know, it's just really trying to live in the present has helped me in exploring new things and finding the passions, being honest about the people who really are filling my cup versus not, which, you know, my friendships certainly changed, and it's for the better or for the better, not for worse. And I love every single role that every single person has played in my life, because it got me to right here, which is immensely filled with self-worth more than I had then. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And my daughter, and this is just a plus, she saw me make a change in my life because I wanted to, not because her father died. And her father died. Mm-hmm. And he passed away because of the choices he made. And I'm happy that she saw me make changes because I just didn't like the way I feel. And I'm so proud of her that she had the balls to say to me, over and over and over again, I don't like how you're acting. That takes courage. And she wasn't doing it in a nasty way. She wasn't doing it just because she wanted to be mean to her mom. She was saying, I don't feel safe. I don't like how you are. You are not you. You're not my mom. And because I felt fit in what other moms were doing, that's hard to say, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she did an interview with Ola Sober years ago. This was a couple years ago now. And Peggy Cooney, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, she's author of The Side of Alcohol. She interviewed Riley, and they talked about the difference between mom then and now. And I still had a hard time validating her. Like, I wasn't that, like, you wanted to kind of be like, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It mattered what her experience was. Mm-hmm. And now I can comfortably say, you know, I did not make her feel safe. I did have a problem. And man, is she a big reason that my life is as beautiful as it is right now. And I'm just so lucky.
That's powerful.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you just have the one daughter?
Hell yes, I can't afford another one. Oh my gosh, they're so expensive. No one's like, they're like, oh, diapers are expensive. Let's talk about dance.
Yeah. I was a one and done too. So,
you know.
And it used to always irritate me because I was like 9 months pregnant. People are like, so when are you having another one? I'm like, I haven't even had this one. Relax. Jeez.
Chill the fuck out.
Oh my gosh.
I gotta pay for this one.
Chris and I talked about it. And when we first got married, and we love to have a child together. And I remember sitting in a gymnastics meet in the stinky gym for 8 hours, and I was hungover. So this is the good part that the hangover contributed to. So I was like, I can't do this when I'm 50. I cannot do this when I'm, nope.
I want to enjoy some me time. Fuck this.
Well, and it goes back to that, like, hindsight is 20/20, rose-colored glasses, like honeymoon, newborn phase. Like, yes, the idea, especially if you've gotten remarried, right? Like, the idea of creating a person that is a perfect mixture of you and the person you love is great. Mm-hmm. But the idea of having to go all the way back and be up all night long and be covered in formula or breast milk. I breastfed for 15 months. And we used to tell people, if you show up at this house unannounced, there will be titties out and breast milk on everything. Yeah. Don't complain about it. And I'm not covering up. So, you know.
Nope. Mm-hmm.
Side note, we actually got ants in our bedroom from breast milk being all over the place. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all that sugar.
It's all that sugar.
Mm-hmm. All that sugar.
But I was a one and done as well. And I will say, first of all, I'm sorry about your ex. That's terrible.
Thank you.
Losing a parent is horrible. I lost my mom for very similar circumstances last year. No matter how old you are, it's awful. But when you were talking about your daughter and her losing her dad, but also seeing you recover, a lot of that, I feel a lot of those similarities. And I know you have a ton of similarities, so I'll get mine out quickly because I'm sure you have a lot of things you want to talk about. But we've had a lot of, so our daughter's 14, right? So right around the same age. But she said, well, I became estranged from my mom for a year before she passed, and we reconnected right before she passed. And we've been talking about a lot of stuff with her because she says, you know, I pushed through with dad and he got sober. I pushed through with Bubba, my brother, and he got sober. And I cut Noonie, my mom, off, and she died. And I said, I understand that is something, like, you could make those decisions a million more times and it not be that outcome. But you cannot take that on, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it's not survivor guilt, but it's like in that same universe of guilt, you know? And she knows, like, we talk to her about stuff and she's self-aware enough to be like, I fully logically recognize that I had nothing to do with any of the three of those outcomes.
Yeah.
It still doesn't comfort any sort of guilt I have, though.
Of course.
But on the flip side of that, we try to teach her, like, these struggles are difficult. And we've said it on previous podcasts, but like the human experience is difficult, like in the best case scenario. And everybody struggles. It's all under an umbrella of mental health.
Oh, yeah.
So we tell her, learn from these, like even the tragedies. There's nothing you could change, but you know, that's what a lifetime of mental illness yields.
Sure.
And look at your dad and look at Bubba. Like, never be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to take accountability, right? Like, you try to find the silver linings in those things. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had similar conversations with your daughter, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to juggle when you lose someone and other people are healthy. Like why could like you get sober and be here and dad couldn't? We deal with a lot of those questions with our daughter too. How do you navigate those things? Like when you're talking about those two so different outcomes, just to get a little personal for a minute and then I'll hand it over to you. I'm just curious to know how you talk about those things.
I had a hard time because I had a lot of resentment towards him because he and I were very close. We co-parented well. I mean, you had your typical ex-husband, ex-wife, you know, little skiffles here and there, but generally we always had birthday parties together. We would meet each other's, you know, romantic partners. We just were always good. And so when he wasn't able to pull out, and I was like, how, even though I'm having my thing going on, his in my head was not, it was really bad. And it was kind of in your typical, like what people picture when they picture an alcoholic, you know, unemployed and struggling and taking money and things like that. And so we talk about, you know, Riley struggled a lot with, why didn't he choose me, you know, and not through the lens of you chose me, he didn't, you know, that, but just generally with him. And it was just, it's an illness. And he wasn't searching for help that he really, really needed. And that whole choice conversation is what it is. Like you know, when you have the people around you trying to help you, there does become a time where you're so in the dark where you can't even make the choice at that point in time. And it's just continuing to have love and not blame yourself because it's their choice and it has nothing to do with you or anyone else. It is a completely, and I'd say the word selfish, not in the sense of they're being selfish. It's just, that's their choice. I read this book, this psychic recommended it to me when I was just pissed. I was so mad at him. And it was this called Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz, I think. And the concept is that you have a soul group, and I'm not even that, like I'm woo woo, but I'm not even like this woo woo, but I'm gonna believe in this because this makes me feel great. And there's that we decide when we come to Earth to live life a certain way, to go through certain struggles. And I agreed to play this role with Stephen. I agreed to be his ex-wife. Riley actually agreed to be his daughter. Stephen needed to come here to do this, XYZ. And it helped me. It was like such a beautiful concept where I was like, oh, I agreed to play this role. And maybe I needed it because I needed to learn more compassion when I was on Earth or something like that. It sounds really way more whimsical than I am, but that's okay. We'll go with that.
No, I love that. And I've read about that too. And I like that as well, because it's so much more like you choose your path because you have to learn something. I really like that.
Yeah, great.
And I like how you bring up choice, right? Because that's another thing is just because someone chooses something, it doesn't mean they deserve the outcome. There's a difference between that's another thing, like they got what they deserved or whatever. No, nobody deserves.
Very well put.
Doesn't matter what you choose. No one deserves to hurt and struggle. So I really like that.
She's someone too who, I mean, it baffles me every day. She chooses joy. Like that girl, without me pushing, she is choosing joy. And we focus a lot on her dad's great qualities because that's what we talk about. We don't talk about the dark times as much. I mean, they come up, of course. And she has such a amazing sense of humor. Some of the comments that come out of her mouth are like, well, I know he's laughing, but come on.
Yeah.
but she, you know, there's a lot of people in her life in the school community who, and this is, everyone has great intentions, but it's like, you should be more sad. You should feel more guilty. Like you should, and I think that doesn't resonate with her. She goes, no, daddy wants me to like be happy.
Yeah.
I have this amazing stepdad who loves me to no end and will put someone in the ground without even asking another question if they mess with me. And he's so happy about that. And so it's wonderful to see the power that kid has, because God, I wasn't anywhere close to that when I was her age.
Right. Before I hand it over to you, a funny little anecdote. My mom had a very like weird, morbid sense of humor, and everybody loved it, but it was definitely an acquired taste. And the last time we visited my mom's grave, so I'm from Texas. She loved the Dallas Cowboys, always wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. She just thought they were the best. And our daughter cheers. And it was a really emotional moment. I had like my hand on the tombstone and I'm talking about all the powerful, strong, amazing women and how I'm going to do all these things. And she was a single mom and, let's go. And I'm crying. And Lily just got in her own feels. And for whatever reason, the only thing she could think to do was to do the Wonderstruck cheer dance on top of my mother's grave. And I turned around with tears. I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, she loved the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. It just seemed appropriate. And it was so appropriate. That's as awesome. Weird as that is. She's like crying and just busts out into the Wonderstruck.
Hate the Cowboys, but I love that.
And I was like, she would love it. And, there's a part of me that's like, that was my mom coming through her going, get the fuck up and stop crying. Yeah. Like, what are you doing here? So I had to throw that in there because you said your daughter has a good sense of humor. I love that.
So morbid is the right word for it.
Yeah. I heard a whole lot of similarities with your story and hers.
Your daughter sounds totally badass, which I love because that reminds me of Lily. And again, one of the similarities we had was, I think you said you were worried about telling her because you didn't want to fail, basically, and upset her. So Lily, when I decided to make my change into sobriety, she was the first person I told because I knew she would keep me accountable.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, she's always been like my hype man.
Yeah.
But not really hold me accountable, but just her being anywhere around me holds me accountable because I know I can't disappoint her.
Yeah.
And that's what really, when I knew I was going to make the change, telling her, told myself, that's it. You're done.
I love
because I'm not going to upset her. So that was a really cool, again, we have all these similarities, which is just crazy to me.
It is. It is. And that's what's great about the connection is you think you're alone. You think you're the only person who has this thing happening. And
you run into so many other people that have similar stories. It's wild. You think it's just you, right?
It's funny when I first was kind of figuring out my why, we all kind of hold on and tie our kite strings to it. Of course, she was the why. And that has evolved. She might have been, I know now she was my accountability. And of course, I want to be the best mom ever. But it comes back. That why has evolved to, it was really for me, it was for my self-worth. And that has in turn made me a better mom and helped her experience with me be nothing but amazing, obviously.
Yes.
we never fight.
Yeah, that's right. But it's all just trickled down. It's just amazing how that one thing, and it does, your whys, it seems to evolve. It's like every year I feel like my why is going to change.
Yeah.
Because you've created this better life for yourself, and why not?
Yeah.
Why not evolve with it? I think that's
love that. Why not?
And the absolute badassery of yourself, and I feel myself, if I may say so myself, is that we both did live hard. Yeah. Which is the full year of 75 hard.
No, stop. You did live hard. So you know exactly what I was talking about.
Oh yeah. And the crazy thing is, so I finished my year back in November.
Wow.
And I was afraid to quit because I'm like, if I quit, what's going to happen? Because I've developed this routine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still fucking doing it to this day.
That's awesome.
So I'm like a year and a half into it. But now the only exception is I don't do the outdoor workout that was mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do the reason I had to pee before we got on is because I still drink a gallon of water every day. I've came accustomed to it. I just fucking do it.
That's awesome.
It's bizarre, and it's so crazy that I'm doing my own, just kind of a teaser alert. I'm going to be doing my own like extreme 60 challenge that's going to start in June, because I want to take this thing like to the next level, because I want to challenge myself even more and hopefully challenge other people. But for you to do that for a year is fucking badass. And I just want to congratulate you on it, because that is amazing. Not many people can do that.
Can I tell you where my year ended? It ended in Las Vegas.
Oh,
and so,
wow.
And I'm going like, fuck the time. I'm like, what time is it? What day is it? When do I need to eat? I'm like, because I was in my diet was like balanced in a fasting window. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to walk outside in this? I mean, I was outside with the hookers, and it was just, I did it.
Listen.
But you did it.
I did it.
All girls in Vegas.
I did the same thing in Washington, D.C. I was up like early in the morning outside, and I was like, how the fuck am I going to do that? You know, I mean, there's just people everywhere, and by God, I found a way. You just do. When you're passionate about it and you want to get it done, it's just like sobriety.
Yeah.
You have that mindset, that growth mindset of, you know what, I can fucking do this, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove to myself that I can do it, which is, I think, what it was really all about.
Definitely.
Hey, being out there with sex workers in Las Vegas, they're gorgeous. Okay,
they're gorgeous.
You want to see someone who has a good business plan and holds himself accountable. They're probably like, "Bitch, get up! I've already ran 5 miles today. Oh my goodness, lazy."
That's right.
Listen, gorgeous, amazing. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Thank you. I love that.
I love it too.
So now I'm going to get to the hard hitting question as we close out the podcast. So we always ask our guests at the end to give us some type of get back into your old drinking days, unfortunately, but to tell the story, you have to. You got to have some kind of absolutely funny story about yourself or being with a group. And if it's a pee story, it's even better, because those seem to take it just over the top. So if you have one of those, you can dig out of the treasure box.
We should say like an embarrassing,
very embarrassing,
but funny.
Yes.
Because if you can't, I mean, some of your best, most memorable moments, right, are in those drinking days. They're not all terrible, so you got to be able to laugh.
And you don't remember them all either. So sometimes you hear them from friends.
That's okay.
So whatever story.
You can say I don't. I have some of those where I'm like, I don't remember this, but apparently.
I was told.
You have to embellish. Oh man, there are so many. And you guys asked me, like, you want.
We want a really juicy one.
So many juicy ones. All right, I'm already blushing, I feel like. Okay. Let's see. So one of my good ones, I think, has been when I was at a bonfire.
Oh.
Which fire always
does
helps. Well.
Fire and alcohol.
And there was a conversation of jumping over the fire. And so people were, and it wasn't a big bonfire yet, so everything was okay. So we were, and actually, I don't even think I was there was guys jumping over the bonfire at one point.
Of course.
And I tend to get competitive and be like, I can do that. Like, I'm like a cool girl here. So like, you girls all sitting there drinking your Pinot Grigio, I'm going to jump over the fire. And so I waited, and I remember being like scared, like nervous, like almost like I was about to like give a speech or something. Like I was like, okay, I want to jump in. I want to do this. I want to prove to them how amazing I am. And so I don't even remember what I was drinking. I'm pretty sure it was a shot of tequila, but I jumped over the fire and I made it. It was beautiful. I made it completely. I then fell back over a log, started laughing, and you're going to be happy, I just peed my pants. And then I remember going, I just have to let it go. I just have to let it go.
That's amazing. That's a scene in a movie.
It is a scene. Probably wasn't even the funniest, but it was the pee one that comes to mind, because it just like
It's like, look at me. I just did all this and I just pissed my pants.
That's amazing.
One of the funniest times that I remember, though, is I was in New York City and I met a guy for a date. His name was Aaron. He's still on my phone, but I don't talk to him, but I tell my husband he's still on my phone. Just as a warning.
Just in case.
I really just have to go through it and like get rid of. I saw him the other day. I was like, "Who's this?" I was like, "Oh my God, that's that guy." So I went there and I had a date with him. It was a lovely date. And then I met my sister-in-law, who wasn't my sister-in-law yet, at a bar. So we've both been to brunch. You do, just like nothing good happens after a third martini, nothing good happens after 3 a.m. You do not need to go anywhere after brunch. You don't. We did. We went to the bar. And I don't know if you guys remember Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously I had to do Pokemon Go to the bartender. So I was completely obnoxious to him. She came in, was probably about as drunk as I was. She goes, we ordered tequila shots. And I want to say it was with the orange and cinnamon. So it was like, oh, it's because it's mezcal. It's smoky. Yes. She goes, I'll be right back. She went to the bathroom, puked, came back. I started yelling, puke and yelling, like puke and rally, man, from like Dazed and Confused. So that happens. Then we go to her apartment where my brother lives. My brother is a chef also. He came home at like 1 a.m. and both of us were passed out on the couch with our wine glasses in our hand, upright, but a little upright. And he had a pizza in his hand. And both of us were like, oh, you got us pizza. Thank you. And he goes, no, assholes. You guys ordered pizza. And he was downstairs. And I happened to walk in at the same time where he was like, apartment, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, is that for this apartment? I'll take it. Here's the money. Or I don't know if they pay for it or not. But also.
That's amazing. That's almost as good as the time that we went through. I was sober. I think I was actually pregnant. Went through the drive-thru at McDonald's at like 3 a.m. and you wanted me to order you a Filet-O-Fish sandwich, and you rolled the window down and started singing the "Give me that Filet-O-Fish, give me that fish" as loud, like so loud that I couldn't even order it.
I think I just remember that.
You remember that?
I do remember that.
Oh, that's funny.
But
that's
I have pizza and passing out. I actually, and this is a long time ago, but I actually passed out while making a pizza in the oven.
No, but you're here to tell us a story.
That was one hell of a wake up. I was home alone, and the smoke detector started. I couldn't believe I did.
Were we married? Was that when we were together?
That was a long time ago.
Oh my goodness!
Pizza catch on fire quick. I'll tell you that.
Those were cooked a lot. That's
right.
That and ramen noodles.
Oh God, the best, the best. It still smells like late night ramen when I smell it. It still smells like late
What
night.
is it about ramen? Even the healthiest, like most mind conscious people are like, yeah, I could totally fuck up some ramen.
Right.
Yeah,
it's so
yeah, it's really
those
good.
were amazing stories.
Mm-hmm.
When you were telling the fire story, and I don't know if you watched The Office or not, but we watched The Office, and it makes me think of there's a scene in The Office where they have this challenge where they walk on hot coals, and it just does not end well. So I was like, is someone catching on fire?
That's right. I was waiting for you to say that. You jumped over it and you're like bragging about it, and then you fell back all on fire.
Right. But ironically, my daughter was at a bonfire. I think it was last summer, and someone did fall in the fire trying to jump over it.
Oh God. Ouch.
Booze and fire.
Yeah.
No bueno.
Yeah.
No. Well, but you know what? This year I started to get the social itch, and I just actually went to a club for the first time this past Saturday. And I was really excited because I was like, oh, I still got it. We got in. They let us in. We didn't have to wait in line. I have never felt older in my life.
I hear they don't even, it's not like it was. Like everybody kind of just is like in their little corner. Like I remember being at the club, like, and this is even like sober, being drenched in sweat, looking like shit. And like when the beat dropped, everybody like got into it. You're like, I have no idea who's grabbing my ass, but I love it. And I'm grabbing their ass. And it was just this thing. And then when the lights came on at 3 a.m., everybody's like, oh God, like what happened?
I got to get up in 3 hours.
Yeah. I remember getting an Uber back to my house and a bunch of people piling in, and the Uber driver was like, what the fuck ever, I don't care as long as someone's paying. And I sat on some strange guy's lap the entire ride from the club at like 3 a.m. to the house. Ironically, nothing happened. Like I sat on his lap and we didn't even speak, as though I wasn't there
Just a
because
seat.
everybody's just like, I mean, no one looked hot. No one. And it was great.
I got to tell one more story.
Do it.
Because this is a good one. All right. So morning after, I'm laying in bed and I get a text. It was really nice meeting you. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I must not have put your number in the phone. Who is this? I'm like, it's whatever his name is. And I'm like, oh, where did we meet? I knew I'd been at bars. And he was like, I was your Uber driver. And we connected. And I was like, all right, I should have stopped.
That should have been it right there. Next day, I'm done.
Yeah. That's kind of
how Riley, her dad, could have been that Uber driver.
Right. Well, funny you say that because that's kind of how mine and Ryan's relationship began.
He was your Uber driver?
No, God, no.
We just met drunk at a bar.
We were drunk at a bar, and I texted her the next morning.
Well,
who's that?
And he was hitting on me, and I tried to hook him up with my best friend, and I got drunk and halfway to the bathroom, just sat on his lap and started making out with him.
That's awesome.
And then the next morning, he texted me, and I had him in my phone as Ryan, and I just remember looking at my best friend going, I really hope this guy's name is Ryan. I'm not. I'm only about 20% sure.
That's awesome. It was Ryan.
It was Ryan.
At least we hope.
That's right.
Maybe.
Could have been two different Ryans, but that's okay.
I hope it was him. I mean, I don't know.
All right. Well, the website is drytality.com. So definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. And Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This was a blast. It was a
Thank you. It was a blast. Look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.